Hey, what's up guys, Steven here. Welcome back to another Smart TV review, and today we've got here the Sony XD93. So I'm super excited because this is my first real huge TV, as you can see, which also has Android TV integrated. And I had a lot of those Chinese TV boxes. If you have seen my reviews, most of them are junk, but I also have got here the Nvidia Shield, and today we're going to check out if a Smart TV with Android TV is worth it, or if you should get a TV box and use it with your normal TV. So I would say let's get directly started and let's have a closer look at the product.
Sony has released its second generation of Android TVs. Here right now we have the 55-inch XD93. It's a 4K TV that supports HDR. It has limited local dimming with Edge LED and DCI IP3 white color gamut. So the last Android TV which I tested was really buggy and unstable. Let's find out if this beauty here can do better. So the TV is really slim, even for an Edge LED TV. Also the power supply is an external brick to save space. The cable management is easy and you can hide all cables on the back side of the TV. Also mounting it on a wall is no problem at all due to its slim design. The XD93 supports 30x20 wall brackets, and the ports that you can connect the cable to are placed in the middle of the screen. On the side there are some easy to get to ports, including one HDMI port, USB ports and the optical port. You can hide the connections behind a plastic panel and route all the cables through the stand. The stand looks fancy and is covered in an aluminum cover and feels stable enough to support the TV. The remote control included looks quite nice and is powered by batteries, but I just didn't like the button layout and also that you always had to point straight to the TV. A remote control with gamepad, better keys, rechargeable battery and gestures, probably even 2.4 GHz would be the way to go with an Android TV, so I still don't know why they don't implement something like that. There were no 3D glasses included, but Sony is still one of the manufacturers supporting 3D. Sony claims full HDR support for the XD9. It's very bright, reaching a peak brightness of 1000 candles per square meter and covering almost the entire DCI IP3 color space. The TV has a limited number of local dimming zones, 32 in total, which will hinder HDR reproduction somehow. But anyway, I'm not so familiar with testing TVs, so for me as my first HDR 4K TV, I was amazed what Sony did. Color tones and sharpness together are incredible. If I looked at the sushi file, then I almost wanted to grab one. It really wakes the pictures to life. 4K alone is not a guarantee for good picture quality. So even with 4K, sometimes you will notice grainy pictures depending on the camera which was used for recording. HDR and DCI IP3 on the other hand adds another layer that goes beyond resolution. Specialists call it the better pixels. Well, I'm not a specialist, but I have to say, the picture on the Sony TV looked stunning. The XD93 is based on a VA LCD panel which has good contrast but narrow viewing angles. Once you start moving to the side, you will experience visible color shiftings, just like on some smartphones. We could see slight clouding in the edges because it's an Edge LED TV, but still the picture looked incredible. It has many settings to adjust, different picture modes and also sports mode for football. Well, nothing special but nice to have. On Netflix it went automatically in HDR mode, same for UHD Blu-rays. Also you could adjust your color spaces, which you should set to 2020 for UHD Blu-rays. It has also an ambient light sensor that adjusts the backlight according to the ambient light in the environment. You may prefer to have it activated if you watch TV during daytime and nighttime. The picture quality is stunning, but what's about Android TV? So Sony's XD93 has 8GB of internal storage for apps, and you can extend them by connecting an external USB hard drive. However, app makers can choose to restrict what you can move from the internal storage to the hard drive. Then it comes also with 2GB of RAM, which is quite okay. The XD93 runs on the same processor like the last year's TV, a dual-core MediaTek MT5890, so it's still not that smooth like a TV box, but reasonably stable. The Wi-Fi connection was stable and worked pretty well. Also, it worked perfectly well with the own Play Store, and also gaming on the box was okay, but still not that smooth like for instance on my Nvidia Shield TV box, which can also stream high graphic intense games. It has all kind of streaming services included, but honestly I just used Netflix. I don't know the other ones and there are way too many out there. I really liked the voice search, which worked fine and accurate, really useful when you don't want to type. All in all, Android TV has become more stable and less buggy, but it still has some ground to cover before it can claim to be as smooth and as fast, for example, LG's WebOS operating system. I really prefer my Nvidia Shield, which feels like 10 times faster and more useful than any Android TV. The Sony XD93 is perfectly engineered. That combines an attractive appearance with features and specifications that have resulted in a great flagship TV. The most obvious improvement that the XD93 brings to the table is HDR support. The speakers of the TV are not so good and sound worse than the older generation, but it has a really thin profile. The remote is just poor, I don't really like it, so I would rather use my Shield with my Shield remote, because I still don't understand why manufacturers make smart TVs but include such crappy remotes. I really don't get it. Android TV is stable and smooth, but I really prefer my TV boxes or Nvidia Shield, which is faster and better. Sony has even chosen to use the same hardware in 2016's TV, so all improvements, they just come from software optimization, and also Google Cast support can't really get me. Even if you don't like Android TV, you don't have to use it. So the motion handling was also very good for an LCD TV and the low input lag, so I think it's also a good TV for your consoles. All in all, a solid TV for the price, and I think it will be very popular this year, so one of the best Android TVs. So this was my review of the XD93, thanks for watching guys, make sure you subscribe that you don't miss any future reviews, and yeah, see you very soon in the next one. Have a nice day and bye bye.